Tonight on CFTK-TV News, several BC First Nations are preparing for the fire season, a long trial about a woman's death is seemingly wrapping up, and a woman is speaking on how her son was almost given the wrong medication.
Northwest BC's only television news team. We are CFTK-TV News.
Good evening, I'm Cale Maslin, and here's what's making the news in the Northwest and beyond for today. The Kitimat RCMP have put out yet another weekly report detailing some of the incidents that occurred during the final couple days of May and first few days of June. One of the most notable parts of the report mentions that two separate collisions of vehicles hitting wildlife on the same day, with the first one taking place on the Kitimat Highway in the later part of the morning where a deer was hit, and the second of those incidents happened in the early evening and saw a moose get hit near the Kitimat Air Park. A longtime resident at the McConnell Estate BC Housing and Terrace is raising some concerns to get a Canadian flag installed at the facility's entrance. CFTK-TV's Helena Asante reports.
Pauline Mary Woodford has lived at the care home for 16 years. Pauline says she's disappointed that the facility does not fly the Canadian flag at its entrance, something she believes should be present at every public care facility. She said it's especially noticeable on national days when resident watch vehicles drive by, proudly flying the red and white.
Because we're part of Canada and we're BC, you know, and when you go, just stand over there and you can see there's one over there, and you know, it's blowing in the breeze and everything, and you see cars going by with their little flags, and I mean, sure, we could have a little flag, big whoop, I want a big flagpole. We're entitled, for heaven's sakes, you know.
Adding to her concern, a pair of binoculars she relied on for occasional viewing was removed. She recalls when she would use binoculars each day to observe nature, nearby roads, and the change in seasons, a small but meaningful routine.
I'm riding on the handy dart, and even other drivers and people walk their dogs, and there's no binocular there anymore. That was part of the fun. Kids used to love to go there and hang on to it and everything, and it's been going, well, since they fixed the point up, it's been quite a long time, and I kept thinking, that bugs me. And then seeing as I mentioned, thought this, well, I'll include that too.
He cited the removal of the binoculars due to safety policy changes, leaving her feeling disconnected from the outside world. Pauline says she's raised the issue multiple times with staff concerning the flag, but has not received a clear answer.
The office of the City of Terrace said that they are looking into this issue. We will continue to follow this story and bring updates as they become available. Heading into the peak part of the wildfire season, several First Nations across the province have already taken some steps to reduce the risk to their communities. As CTV's Ben Milger reports, Indigenous people have been using traditional cultural burns to reshape the landscape for thousands of years.
As this blackened landscape shows, summer wildfire danger is an annual threat for the Cheslata Carrier Nation in northwest BC.
Almost half of Cheslata's territory has been burnt since 2010.
Using forestry management, the First Nation does what it can to protect people and property.
It's already a rural community, and there's forest in between each member's houses. And so forestry is a component of assisting with a goal of reducing the wildfire risk in the community.
They are working on another fire mitigation tool, which many First Nations used for thousands of years before colonization. Cultural burns can be used to reduce fuel in the forest, protecting communities from uncontrolled wildfires. Many First Nations are doing this work with assistance from UBC's Faculty of Forestry, where researchers have a large grant to study Indigenous practices of wildfire management and forest restoration.
As a biophysical scientist, I'm just constantly in awe of the deep expertise and knowledge of the landscape and how that continues, especially as conditions are changing so rapidly.
Preparation for these controlled burns can often take months or even years. They are only done under ideal conditions, and the First Nations are often supported by the BC Wildfire Service.
The development of a burn plan is really crucial and takes place well before fire is ever going to be applied to the landscape.
Remembering how fast a wildfire exploded near the community last summer, the Cheslata plan to reduce the risk by fighting fire with fire.
One day, it consumed about 10,000 hectares. So it has a huge impact on the land and the community when fires are when you're not able to control them.
Most cultural burns take place in the spring or fall, well before or after peak fire season. Ben Milger, CTV News, Vancouver.
Coming up next is a look at a memorial service for the Lapu-Lapu attacks. Welcome back. It's been 40 days since the car-ramming attack at Vancouver's Lapu-Lapu Festival, which left 11 people dead. CTV's Martin McMahon had more from outside a memorial church service, which was just getting underway at the time in Vancouver.
It has been 40 days of pain for Vancouver's Filipino community, 40 days of disbelief. And tonight, a chance to remember those who were lost. It's the latest in a series of memorials since the attack in April, which made global headlines in what has been described as one of Vancouver's darkest days. Now, with this memorial service at St. Andrew's Parish Church in East Vancouver, just blocks from where the tragedy struck, a chance to honor those who died. The 40-day mark is significant in Filipino culture.
In Filipino Catholic tradition, the 40 days is very significant. It's believed that within the 40 days, the souls of our loved ones are still very close to us. And then on the 40th day, they transition to the afterlife and they find peace.
But these 40 days recall the ancient story that when people lost their direction, lost their hope, somehow, like Jesus himself, showed himself alive and tell them that despite of what had happened, we have hope.
The days leading up to this event involved a debate over a City of Vancouver plan for a large-scale benefit concert at Rogers Arena. That now appears as if it will go ahead, though no date has been set. Filipino BC says this memorial service isn't closure and that healing has no schedule. But at least this is a chance to remember and honor those who were lost. Martin McMahon, CTV News, Vancouver.
The death of a Métis woman 8 years ago left 2 young children without a mother, and now a lengthy trial is wrapping up for a man accused of the murder of young Fraser Valley mother, whose body was found in a shallow grave. CTV's Michelle Bernoro has more from Abbotsford Court.
Next month marks 8 years since Chelsea Gauthier was killed, and her family is still waiting for justice.
The man in the yellow shirt is Gary Loesch. He's charged with second-degree murder and committing an indignity to human remains in the death of 22-year-old Chelsea Gauthier. She was a Métis mother of 2 who went missing in July of 2017. Court heard she had met up with Loesch, then 62, at this Abbotsford McDonald's and then headed to a remote mountain area near Mission. She had agreed to help him tend to a marijuana grow operation, but she never came back.
She was lively, she was bubbly. Even when she was down, she would always try and help others.
Court heard Chelsea likely died from a single stab wound to her back. Her body was later found by police wrapped in a sheet in a shallow grave. Loesch's DNA was found on a corner of that sheet, but in its closing, defense said that it is not known how Loesch's DNA ended up on the sheet and that it could have come from her borrowing a piece of his clothing. Defense also said that while the area is remote, it is not exclusive to Mr. Loesch. Crown has not established Mr. Loesch and Miss Gauthier were on the mountain alone the entire period they were up there. Gauthier's cousin has been at court almost every day since the trial began in February.
I want the best for her children. So if we can bring this to light and to justice for her children, that would mean a lot, because they barely knew her.
With closing arguments now complete, the case is in the hands of a judge. A verdict will be handed down at a later date. Michelle Bernoro, CTV News, Abbotsford.
A mother of Vancouver Island is speaking out after she says she was accidentally given the wrong medicine while refilling her son's ADHD medication. As CTV's Andy Garland explains, the mix-up almost put a powerful painkiller in the hands of a young child.
The bottle was exactly the same.
Sarah Paquin is holding her son Declan's medication.
Regular ADHD medication, it's dextroamphetamine, and he's been on this for a couple of years.
They got his latest prescription refilled last Wednesday at this Shoppers Drug Mart on Guthrie Road in Comox.
It wasn't until the next morning when my husband went to give our son the medication before school that he noticed that they were a different color.
The prescription had a different name on it, and it was for hydromorphone, a powerful painkiller used to treat severe to moderate pain.
I read that it's about 5 to 7 times stronger than like the baseline morphine.
Sarah adds, Declan was seconds away from taking the powerful opioid.
They're in his hands. He would have had this high dosage of morphine, been sent off to school unknowingly.
Sarah says her husband returned the prescription the same day and told the pharmacist what had happened and were refunded the money. The owners of the shoppers called them yesterday to apologize.
He did also let me know that the employee that I dealt with has been suspended while they do their own internal investigation.
We reached out to Loblaw, who own Shoppers Drug Mart, and in a statement they say, upon review with the store, we have learned this was a case of human error, one that never should have happened. We have controls in place to minimize risks like this, where the patient was handled the wrong prescription bag, and the associate will review these with the employees to avoid a similar situation in the future.
Double, triple, quadruple check every prescription you pick up, whether you've been going to that pharmacy for years, whether it's a medication you've been on for years.
Sarah wants to see stricter policies when picking up prescriptions and has filed a complaint with the College of Pharmacists of BC, who are now in contact with the family.
It's just terrifying. We put our trust in these local professionals to be upholding their end. I think this one was entirely avoidable.
Sarah and her family will now be changing pharmacies, as they say this mistake could have cost them dearly. Andy Garland, CTV News, Comox.
And now we take a look at both your nightly and weekly weather forecast. On the north coast, the forecast for tonight predicts that it'll be clear with a low at 7 degrees, and the rest of the week should see some mixed sunny and cloudy days, then some purely sunny days before switching back to a cloudy day, and the high will shift from 15 to 11 degrees. In the Terrace-Kitimat area, their upcoming night will be mostly clear as well, but with a low at 9 degrees, while the upcoming week will alternate between purely sunny days and mixed sun and cloud days, with the high moving from 24 to 20 degrees. And in the Bulkley Valley and Lakes District, the night for them should include a few clouds and a low at 1 degree, with the rest of the week being sunny for the most part alongside one mixed sun and cloud day, and their high will bounce between 25 and 21 degrees. Checking out the highways now, visit Drive BC for the latest and up-to-date conditions, and as always, drive safe out there. Highway 16 has construction work, bridge maintenance, utility work, ditching, a couple special events planned, and mowing. Highway 35 has shoulder maintenance and electrical maintenance. Highway 118 has roadside brushing. Highway 37 has bridge construction, frost heaves, and road construction work. Highway 37A is still dealing with falling rocks between west of Mesiaden and east of Stewart, and the Nishka Highway has some shoulder maintenance. And this is what the roads were looking like this afternoon around the region from the view of the province's highway cams. Still to come, some Vancouver surgeons have gotten what they called a once-in-a-lifetime gift. Welcome back. Heart surgeons in Vancouver are calling it a once-in-a-lifetime gift. A $60 million donation will fund a new cardiovascular institute at VGH. As CTV's Andrew Johnson explains, it's expected to have a life-saving impact around the world.
So we're going to talk as a team, and then we're going to get you done right now.
Dr. David Wood is all about thinking big to help more patients faster and get them out of the hospital into recovery sooner.
About 20 minutes to fix the heart, and then you'll be out of the room in under an hour, okay?
And now, thanks to a massive gift, Vancouver General Hospital's head of cardiology says he has just what he needs.
This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
Wood is leading the team designing a new cardiovascular institute thanks to a $60 million donation from the Dilawri Foundation. The Dilawris, behind Canada's largest automotive group, were moved to give back after their father received care from Dr. Wood's team.
He and his team saved my father's life, and for that, my family will be forever grateful. We were compelled to pay that gratitude forward.
They approached Wood, who has now spent years assembling a team to lead what he says will become the Mayo Clinic of the North.
The idea that a family like the Dilawri family would just say, dream big, And here is not only money for a new tower, which will be a state-of-the-art outpatient cardiovascular tower, but here's a $25 million innovation fund. Fix the system, make the system better for patients.
He says the money is already being put to work, recruiting top talent Dr. Wood says is leaving the United States over the policies of President Trump.
The infrastructure to support research, and I feel very bad from some of my colleagues across the border, has completely changed.
Wood predicts America's loss will be Canada's gain.
We've recruited some of the best and brightest minds in cardiovascular medicine in the world, including from the United States.
The plan is to break ground on the Dilawri Cardiovascular Institute in 2027. Excitement over what the future could hold for Canadian heart patients is already well underway. Andrew Johnson, CTV News, Vancouver.
Canadian exports plummeted in April as U.S. tariffs hammered demand for Canadian goods. This comes as the country posted its largest merchandise trade deficit on record. CTV's John Vanavalli-Rao has more.
When it comes to comparing how much merchandise was brought into Canada versus exported out last month, the difference has never been so stark, with that trade deficit growing to just over $7 billion in April, compared to just over $2 billion in March, reflecting in large part a plunge in overall exports being sent to the U.S., which tumbled nearly 16% month over month.
We're looking right at the heart of the storm of tariffs, and they showed a huge drop in our exports, a drop in two-way trade.
The fallout from the slew of tariffs imposed by the U.S. president on cars, steel, aluminum, and other items was just partly to blame for the drop in exports. So too was the flood of goods that poured into the U.S. ahead of the tariffs, which built up inventories. Exports of autos to the U.S. falling 23% in April, while exports of consumer goods fell 15%.
These are fully automatic machines.
Toronto-based Ultraform Manufacturing makes components for auto parts and has seen such a drop in demand, its employees have had to switch to work sharing, for now at least avoiding layoffs.
So we definitely had a drop of almost 35% in our business. And we are trying to figure it out what is the best way to mitigate that drop.
The value of energy exports also dropped, but that was due to lower oil prices, while overall exports fell to their lowest level in 2 years. And some expect things to continue to deteriorate, with pressure mounting to reach a trade deal and companies looking for certainty.
Hopefully we can get back to an agreement that is respected by both countries, and so that companies know the rules of the game.
If there was a silver lining, it was that Canadian exports to countries outside of the U.S. did grow by about 3%, which could reflect efforts to better broaden export markets. John Vanavalli-Rao, CTV News, Toronto.
The collective message being sent by Canadians to the U.S. has weakened in recent weeks. New data released shows support for buying Canadian products is falling. CTV's Craig Krause has more on this and how decisions are made north of the border and how they're impacting Washington state.
Once the focus of the federal election and a staple for water cooler chit-chat, the motivation to only buy Canadian products appears to be dwindling.
I don't really care where it comes from. If it's cheaper, it's better.
I use oranges for my smoothies.
This reaction reflective in recent polling.
The level of attention that Canadians are paying to the Trump tariffs is lower than it was a couple of months ago. And now it's at 69%. It used to be 84%.
Research co-found 3 in 5 Canadians are avoiding buying American goods, down 4% since March. The polling also found a 5% drop in sidestepping American chain restaurants, but only a 2% decrease of people considering canceling trips to the U.S.
It's been somewhere between volatile and a pretty sizable decline.
Bellingham and Seattle being hit hard over the last several months as Canadians stay north.
April 2025 compared to April 2024, we saw, I think it was about a 51% drop in southbound trips by Canadians.
You know, I think the most important thing is that we love you, neighbors, and we're ready for you to come back when you're ready.
As they work to attract British Columbians back, there's been another blow to cross-border relations.
Steel producers are bracing for the impact of 50% tariffs from the U.S.
A 25% bump in tariffs sending shockwaves throughout the BC industry.
Kitimat was created specifically for the aluminum industry,
And so, yeah, anything that affects that would have a massive impact on us.
Rapidly changing policies, leaving UBC political scientists watching closely.
We just have to get used to this new way, this new, more transactional relationship, and hopefully over that medium term, Prime Minister Carney, the current approach to try to quietly rebuild that relationship bears some fruit. But we have to wait and see.
Craig Crow, CTV News, Vancouver.
And now we turn our attention to how the stock markets are looking as of today compared to yesterday. The Canadian dollar is down 16/10 cents. The price of gold is down $28.50. Oil is up $1.21. Natural gas is up 10 cents. Aluminum is down $5. In Toronto, the TSX is up 86.84 points. The Venture Index is up 3.33. And in New York, the Dow Jones is up 443.13. And NASDAQ is up 231.50. Still ahead, the newest console from Nintendo has just been released. Welcome back. It's too soon to say if the latest must-have gadget will break records, but if the lineups are any indication, Nintendo was likely quite pleased. The Switch 2 has arrived at what's being called a mega launch. Here's CTV's Sinjin Alexander.
There are a lot of people who won't know what all the fuss is about, confused by the long snaking lines all over the world, including in Metro Vancouver.
We're coming up on 18 hours now. Yeah, 18.
Day 60, waiting for the Nintendo Switch 2.
But gaming enthusiasts who have pre-ordered the latest console just need to be the first to get it. So sure enough, at midnight,
4, 3, 2, 1.
Switch 2 was launched, and the gaming device was bought and bagged in Tokyo, Manhattan, Chicago, and Tallahassee.
The last one was released just so long ago. I think it's just exciting. It really revolutionized gaming when it came out.
Now, those pre-orders were sold out in minutes, and Nintendo wants to break records, but it's $630 a pop, not to mention the cost for extra games. The company may have created its own obstacle course.
Which game also had Koroks?
We're told it has better graphics, a sharper screen, and now allows you to play with friends.
They're actually seeing each other on the screen. They're talking through the Nintendo Switch 2. And it really creates that more immersive experience for people when they're playing together, which is what we like to do at Nintendo.
So far, reviews are good. Now Switch 2 has to capture those who are patient, question the price, and don't buy the hype. Sinjin Alexander, CTV News, Vancouver.
Vancouver Mayor Ken Sim is incredibly grateful no one was injured when a man rammed a vehicle into the Pacific Coliseum during a Cirque du Soleil show last night. A 30-year-old man was reportedly arrested under the Mental Health Act, and the crash doesn't appear to be an act of terrorism. It comes about 6 weeks after the deadly ramming attack at a Filipino festival in Vancouver that killed 11 people, and Sim said that the safety of event attendees remains a top priority for Vancouver. That's all our news for now. From everyone at CFTK-TV News, I'm Cale Maslin. Thanks for watching.